Lovely. I'm going to leave it couple more minutes for people to arrive and everything. But before we start, if you can introduce yourself in the chat with your name, position, organisation, and pronouns, that would be amazing. Yeah, just while we're waiting for a few others to join, we'll probably start in a couple of minutes. But yeah, wherever you're from within the uni, or if you're external, do pop all your again, your name, position, organisation, and pronouns in the chat. Also, just a heads up that this seminar will be recorded. The Q&A won't be, but I've promised the lovely EDR team that I'd record it, and it's the first time I've remembered in about 6 months. So yeah, it will be recorded, but all the questions at the end, they won't be. But yeah, if we leave it one more minute or so, just to make sure anyone running slightly late can join, that would be great. As you can tell, I'm a bit nervous today, but what's making it a little bit better is I can't see how many people are in the call as I'm sharing my slides. So yeah, I might talk away, but cool. Cool, yeah, so anyone just joining, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, with your name, position, organisation, and pronouns, that would be amazing. And we're going to get started in about 30 seconds or so. Cool. Let's get started, shall we? So, please let my slides work. So, hi everyone, welcome to my Pronouns Workshop to mark Pride Month 2023. It's a very busy week for us this week, as we are off to Pride in London on Saturday, which I am ecstatic about. We're actually walking in the parade, and this is the first time the uni is doing so. So it's a very exciting week for all of us. I'm Chloe McKendrick. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. I am co-chair of LGBTQ plus staff network here at the Uni of Hertfordshire, and I'm also marketing executive at Hertfordshire Students' Union. I am a Hearts alumni. I graduated here in 2021 in politics and international relations, and I was also president of the LGBT plus Students Society for 2 years then. So this pronoun workshop is by the staff network and also the society. We both have a lot of input into it. I first ran this back when I was a student, and I believe I've probably run this session about 30 times, and each time I am just as nervous to do so. It always goes well, but there's always that little bit that I'm like, oh, I'm really, really nervous. So yeah, this is the one I'm running for Pride Month. I am running one tomorrow for the Office of the Vice Chancellor as well, which is really fun that I get it out to as many people as I can. If you know someone who wanted to make it today and they couldn't, it is recorded and on the Uni of Hearts YouTube channel, but I will also be recording today's session as we have updated slides, and I'm sure it will be on there very, very soon. Just some housekeeping. We have got some links and stuff in some information within the slides, but the lovely Julia from the EDI office is here, so if there is anything, she can add it into our chat. Also, this is a safe place, and this is not a place for debate or arguing or anything along those lines. It's time to just educate yourself and learn and see how you can be more inclusive in not only your professional but personal life also. So first of all, I'm going to tell you more about the two organisations that kind of bring you this workshop today, before we go into learning more about terminology and inclusive language, and also pronouns, and how you can bring the conversation and into, normalising the everyday pronouns into your professional and personal life. After that, we'll go into a more of a question, like Q&A, question and answer session. But I completely understand if you don't want to ask anything in a session. You might go away and have loads of questions you want to ask me. You can always Teams me or email me, or anything along those lines is perfectly fine. But yeah, let's get started, shall we? So the LGBTQ+ staff network is a network run by staff within the Uni of Hertfordshire for staff. So we come together and socialise. We share information, advice, ideas and experience around LGBT issues. We are a voice within uni that influence decision and policy making at senior levels. So we are on many boards. We also work very closely with the EDI office on making sure that Hearts is as inclusive as possible. We also raise awareness of LGBT issues for our events such as LGBTQ+ History Month in February and also Pride Month. And there's also key dates throughout the year, including Trans Day of Visibility. We also enable allies to be effective voices in support of the network, members and activities. So the network is not just for people who are within the LGBTQ+ community, but also allies are more than welcome to join and get involved. Recently launched, we run the LGBTQ+ mentoring program, which partners staff with LGBTQ+ staff with LGBTQ+ students, which is very, very well received. And yeah, looking forward to how that progresses within the next year. So that's the LGBTQ+ staff network side of it. We also work very closely with the Student Society, the uni, the Students' Union, all just to make sure it's as inclusive, Hearts is an inclusive LGBT place. So going into the Student Society run is for mainly students, but staff are more than welcome to also attend. They run weekly support groups, including an LGBT support group and also a trans support group too. They run social events, including loads of drug nights. You may have been to one. They are incredible. And again, they work alongside the LGBT staff network, EDI office, SU and the uni to improve life on campus for students and staff. We have a very good team. We work very well together, which we really enjoy. They provide a voice for all LGBT students and they lead the calendar of events for key months. You may have seen Elijah raising the flag earlier this month, who's president of the society, and they have a very large presence on campus. And they also launched the first Uni of Hertfordshire Pride back in February 2020. This was just before COVID times, as you can imagine, but included a Pride Fete, the Pronoun Workshop, and also a drag night. And these celebrations have continued throughout, 2021, right now to 2023, just raising the presence of LGBT on campus. So now you know about the two organisations that are bringing you this Pronouns Workshop. Let's go more into detail. So how we look at gender is really important within society, and entirely gender is a social construct. Although many people see it, white or black, it's male, female, woman or male, it completely differs, and there's so much more to gender than what society see, and it's very socially constructed over thousands and thousands of years. And the best way I look at it is, I believe I took this off Microsoft Word, of when you pick the font colours and how many colours there is, tones, hues, it completely varies. No tone is either black or white, it's completely varied. And how we look at gender is kind of associated on a spectrum. Sorry, my AirPod just made a weird sound. So everything is on a spectrum, and how we look at it, so we've got male one side and female the other, and this is the assigned sex, so what sex you was assigned at birth, which relates to your genitals. But you can also be intersex. So everything is on a spectrum, including gender, which gender is your eternal sense of self. And how I kind of see this, and I talk to my fellow trans colleagues and trans peers, and is that it's your soul and it's who you are as an individual. So yeah, as you can see, there's man and woman one side, either side, masculine, female leading, and gender neutral, which is also non-binary, that you don't associate with either male nor woman. Yeah. And lastly, gender expression. So this is how you portray your and express your gender, which is, you know, through name, pronouns, clothing, again, either side, and then in the middle. I always like to think and say that, you know, clothing and even hair and makeup, there shouldn't be a gender construct on those. You know, if you want to wear a skirt, so be it. But it's where through thousands and thousands of years you've come to that social construct that if you wear a skirt and pink and flowers, that's feminine, you know, and darker shades are more masculine. I really hate that concept, and I really want to break that. And I think we've come a long way, and we are, but there's still more to go. So yeah, these three parts of gender expression, gender, and anatomy all relate to our concept and the social construct of gender. So looking back at these three aspects, what you feel inside. So if we go back to gender and your sense of self and your soul and what other people see, this may be gender expression, anatomy, it doesn't always match. And this mismatch causes gender dysphoria. And this, with this lack of, with this mismatch is, yeah, causes trans people great discomfort, which leads to transitioning. So looking at transitioning, not every transition is the same, and that's important to say, like not every single person's the same. But if you was to look at a typical transition, it would start with social, which is your name, pronoun change in expression and presentation. And this can lead, and not always, which is important to say, to a medical transition, which is hormones, surgeries and voice therapies. I always like to raise at this part that the current, you know, gender care within the UK and actually global is not very good. Few of my friends, not mentioning names or anything, but it's taken them 4 to 5 years just to get onto hormones. So I think it's really important, you know, to talk and openly discuss the care that is there through the government, but also through the NHS, and how that can improve. Because especially in the cost of living crisis as well, people are choosing to go private, and it's £200-300 for a consultation, which is an awful lot of money. So we need to look and reassess at how that medical care and that support is re-seen and looked at. But it's also really important that we note that not every trans person feels dysphoric about every part of their body, and not all trans people choose to transition. So looking at some inclusive language and terminology, and terminology is always changing. I made these, my initial pronoun workshop, I've been doing this for like 5 years now, and terminology has changed since I was doing it. And it's just making sure you keep updated and you keep yourself educated. I have lovely friends that support me with this also, and just been like, actually that wording is probably quite outdated. You could probably use this word instead. But some correct terminology is assigned sex, so what you was assigned at birth, cisgendered, assigned sex and gender identity match. You may have seen in the media a lot at the moment about people using the word cis as if it's an insult, which it is not. I think this is a lot of it is stemmed from Piers Morgan, if I'm honest with you. But it's not an insult in the slightest, and I think people see it as an insult if they want to be insulted. But it's literally assigned sex and gender identity match. That's what it means. Transgender assigned sex and gender identity don't match. Trans plus woman is woman who was assigned male at birth. Trans man who was assigned female at birth. And then non-binary, someone whose identity does not squarely fit into male or female, can be assigned male, female, or intersex at birth. And non-binary is an umbrella term and can represent a single identity. This all depending on the individual. But this non-binary is very similar to gender fluid and gender neutral. So some outdated versus correct terminology. Again, some of these terms are now outdated. I was using a year ago, 2 years ago, and it's actually where friends are or people even attending these sessions, which I love, is looking at that, actually, yeah, that's slightly outdated. You wouldn't use that. That could be seen as offensive. But female to male, male to female, biologically male or female, and preferred pronouns. I used to call this preferred pronouns. I used to say it all the way through these workshops. And actually, there's nothing preferred about it. If you say preferred, it's like it's giving another individual, actually, I prefer she, her, but call me he, him, if that makes sense. But no, it shouldn't be a preference. It's your personal pronouns. So the correct terms for these now outdated terms is trans man, trans woman, assigned sex, personal pronouns. Don't really like that one, but I added it anyway. Or just pronouns, because they are yours. So what are pronouns? A word that can function as a noun phrase used by itself, and it refers either to the participants in a discourse or to someone or something mentioned elsewhere in the discourse. So I Googled this. This is a definition straight off Google. And I remember learning about pronouns in English or I think it was literacy back when you were in primary school. And you know, everyone's taught about it. It's just a pronoun is basically a usage instead of name. But there's so much more association with pronouns that we need to look at, and its association with gender identity. Especially within the LGBT community. And that's why it's so important, because a pronoun is instead of a name, and that links entirely to your identity or your gender identity. Sorry, I thought I skipped ahead there. So yeah, these are some of the pronouns. You're probably mostly common with the top three, which is she, her, they, them, he, him. They, them, it is a gender neutral term. What often annoys me is that people like, that's plural. No, I mean, it is plural. You can use it in a plural sense, but you actually use it in your everyday life without knowing it anyway, as a singular term. We've also got more pronouns below, which is ze, zir, zir, which is, again, a gender neutral pronoun selection, just in case people, it's just there instead of people not comfortable with they, them. You can also have more than one set of pronouns. I'm more than happy to use she, her, and they, them. People may feel like they associate with all pronouns, he, they, she. And it's actually up to the person how you would use these. Some people like to use them ever-changingly, or some people might have more of a preference one day than another. So it's important to kind of open up that conversation, and I'm going to kind of give you top tips of how you can bring that into both your personal and professional life. So what can you do to support the trans community, not only here at Herts professionally or while you're studying, but also as within your personal life? An important one is don't use dead names. Dead names is the name someone was assigned at birth, and they may have changed their name following their transition. Of course, I think it's really important to say that people make mistakes, people mess up, people accidentally, you know, what is incredibly understanding is that people know that habits don't change overnight. And if you've been calling someone by a name for 20 plus years and they are now using but a different name, they completely understand that it can be difficult to get out of that habit, but it's making that conscious decision to actually use their name instead of their dead name, and never bringing it up like in an argument or things like that. As well with you know, like academic staff, those teaching students, it's really important to make sure that that's reflective on any records or things like that. Just in case those happen, especially with some lectures I know have like 300 students in them, and it's completely understandable not to be first name basis or with all your students. So it's just making that conscious decision. Number 2, use gender neutral language to know someone's pronouns. That's really important. I go into everyday situations using they, them till someone either informs me of their pronouns or vice versa. I mean, in if you was to go to the supermarket or something, you wouldn't necessarily be in a long conversation, but it's just using those pronouns to be respectful and to not assume gender. Don't keep using the wrong pronouns even when you've made a mistake. Again, back to habit. No one's perfect, and you're not going to become this absolute pronoun. I know everything about pronouns, blah, 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 overnight. It's keeping that, it's making that conscious decision of, and if it does happen and you do slip up, maybe you use he, him, or she, her, or another term that that individual don't associate with, just correct yourself and move on. Don't dwell on it. Again, similar to if you misgender someone, apologise, correct yourself and move on. And 5, bring pronouns into your everyday conversation, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. So how can you help normalise pronouns? So introduce yourself. For example, hello, I'm Chloe and I use she, her and they, them pronouns. At the start of this session, I introduced myself with my pronouns with ease, and I also encouraged everyone else to do so in the chat. And it literally adds maybe 1 or 2 seconds extra onto your time, but it shows just how inclusive you are, especially to LGBT students and staff around you. You can also add your pronouns to your social media bios and names. This LinkedIn has this option, Instagram, I think Twitter, but even then there's bios where you can add it in to make to look as inclusive and be as inclusive as you can. And also your email signatures. Everyone within the Students' Union has their pronouns within their email signature, and I've also seen it with plenty of staff around the uni. And just that small touch can just show how inclusive you are to both students and staff and willing to have that conversation about pronouns. Number 3 is never assuming someone's pronouns. You know, go into the conversation with they, them and gender neutral terms is always best. And you can then open yourself up to the conversation by not only introducing yourself with your pronouns, but asking others, which I will go on to a bit in a few seconds. You can also wear a pronouns badge. I'm working from home today, so I don't have my lanyard on me, but I have pronoun badges on my lanyard. I know that many people around the Students' Union do, and within the uni itself. And yeah, I'm not sure how many we have left now because it's coming to the end of Pride Month, but we are definitely looking about getting more. I know the Creative Arts School give out pronoun badges. You can also order them online as well, on Amazon or anything like that. I think it's normally £1 or something, very, very miniature, that you can get a badge. But maybe someone from the SU, if they know if there is any extras, please do pop it in the chat, or I know the LGBT Society also have some spare, so if you do want one, I can try and sort that out for you. And ask people their pronouns. That's the biggest way we're going to make sure the pronouns are as inclusive as we can throughout society. And it's so easily done. You know, when you introduce yourself in a certain way, I don't know psychologically how it works, but people often reciprocate how you've introduced yourself, and that automatically brings that back. It brings the pronouns into the conversation, and don't be afraid to do so. You know, nothing changes overnight, but just bringing it into that conversation. And once you start doing it a few times, you'll do it so naturally. It'll just become second instinct, and you'll think, well, why didn't I do that before? But I know not everyone's going to be comfortable having those conversations. So do look at the different ways you can do so, you know, wearing a pronouns badge on your lanyard or your blazer, adding your pronouns to your social media bios, name and email signature. And the biggest thing like to take away from this is no one's perfect, but just coming here today and wanting to be more inclusive for not only students and staff, but also for yourself and within, you know, professional and personal field is really important. Nobody's perfect, everyone's going to slip up, but it's just making those conscious decisions to be as inclusive as you can for our beautifully diverse population here at the Uni of Hearts. So yeah, coming to the end of our session now, the seminar lecture part of it, we'll go into the Q&A shortly, but here are some details for the staff network and the society. So any staff member within uni, This includes also the Students' Union. You can be a part of any network at the Uni of Hearts. If you want to join the staff network, all you have to do is email lgbt@hearts.ac.uk, and it'll be either me or my fellow co-chair Chris who will pick up your email, and you'll be invited to our teams. We go for regular. We have a reading group that you can get involved with. We meet up regularly on campus, and obviously we've got Pride in London Saturday, which I'm absolutely ecstatic for. You can also follow us up on Twitter to see what we're doing and to keep updated that way, but it's entirely free, and it's just a very, very supportive place of where you can make friends, socialise, hang out, but also get your voices heard. Again, you don't have to be a part of the LGBTQ plus community to be a part. You can be an ally. We've got a lovely ally rep, Sarah, so there's loads of things you can also get involved with us. The Student Society, if you are a student and you want to get involved, here's their social media and their emails. Slightly different approach of how you would join this society. You would head to heartssu.com, go to the Societies tab and find their webpage, and you can purchase a membership this way. Memberships is required for a society as it helps keep their society growing, and the different events and things that they can run. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to open it up for a Q&A and stop the recording. Thank you to all those who have attended. I don't actually know how many have. I'm slightly scared to look because I was very nervous before I started. But yeah, we'll open up to any Q&As, or if there's any in the chat.